The balance of the world restored. The balance of these mortals still to be accounted for. The wizard Gale saved everyone and cost his closest friends their lives. Poor Astarion. His time in the sun was brief. Poor Lae'zel. She died far from her homeland, on a distant plain. Poor Shadowheart. In life, she turned from darkness, yet in the end, darkness reclaimed her. Poor Shadowheart. In life, she sought darkness, and in darkness her life is over. Poor noble Wyll. His soul, once bound, now freed in death, and never to be seen again. Sweet Karlach. Her death was foretold, and yet what life was left was ripped from her before her time. Poor Jaheira. She gave so much for Baldur's Gate, and never saw it rise anew. Poor Boo. He lost his best friend and brother both in Minsc. Poor Minthara. Exiled from her home, tormented by a false god, and denied her vengeance. Halsin doth now live in the earth he so loved. His body ample food for plants and animals. The Emperor survived so far, only to have their plan fail. Astarion. Killed his former master, sacrificed thousands of souls to take his place as vampire ascendant. He wreaketh havoc through the hells now, by Karlach's side. The vampire ascendant. He chose to leave Baldur's Gate with his consort and travel the world, indulging in every delight it offered. Rumors of their debauchery abound, but all agree a night reveling with them will be the greatest or most horrifying night of your life. His former master destroyed, thousands of souls sacrificed, and his place as the vampire ascendant secured. His parties alone are worthy of ballads and legends. As Astarion's strength groweth, the likelihood of her cure and their return to this plane groweth too. Not least for the rumours of the Illithid that doth frequent them. Though his love is notably missing. Karlach. She perished with the expiration of her heart, though Astarion doth hold hope that there is life after death for her yet. After all, there was for him. Though no ballads are ever writ, Such is the fear that doth swirl about Astarion and his bloody consort. Though one guest is notably missing, a former lover. From time to time, Astarion doth ponder on inviting her, but deemeth it beneath a lord. Though one guest is notably missing, a former lover. From time to time, Astarion doth ponder inviting him, but deemeth it beneath a lord. Though one guest is notably missing, a former lover. From time to time, Astarion doth ponder inviting them, but deemeth it beneath a lord. Though no ballads are ever writ, his guests he welcometh to his home, his consort locketh the door. Having killed his former master, he took over the palace, where he was once a servant. His first act, raze it to the ground and burn away every trace of Cazador's existence. His home is now a strange one, for contrary to any plans he laid, he doth find himself in Avernus, battling beside his love, Karlach. His love, Karlach, perished with the expiration of her heart. Though Astarion doth hold hope that there is life after death for her yet, after all, there was for him. And though Astarion doth spend his days sleeping once more, he doth not sleep alone. He and his love scour tomes and ancient texts, seeking a way to return him to the light. Their search hath borne no fruit yet, but they hunt on. With his former master dead, the spawn took the palace, where he once served. His first act, raze it to the ground and burn away every trace of Cazador's existence. He never did face his master, but with his love beside him, new courage hath he found. Cazador's days are dwindling now. It will not be long before they find him and put an end to all his wrongs. He hideth from Cazador still, but not in fear. For he knoweth that even if he were ever found, he would not be alone. He never did face his master. He hunteth him still, in darkness, alone. Gale. He sacrificed himself to save the world, and in so doing restored his good name with fair Mystra. By his hand was the crown of Karsus once again reforged. Gale became a god, as he once dreamed he would, and under his pantheon of ruthless ambition doth he draw new souls to his creed. He promised to share godhood with the one he loved, But the distribution of such power is yet to be resolved, for ambition does not like to share. But as ever, his hubris was his downfall. Gale failed to master the crown's magic. It ignited the orb within him, and he perished in the blast. And by his word he relinquished it unto Mystra. For his humility, Mystra offered him the ultimate reward, forgiveness. She re-anointed him her chosen, and rid him of the orb. But the one thing she could not do for him was cure his greatest love. Gale and Karlach travel the hells together now, in search of a cure for her heart. As Gale's infernal knowledge groweth, so doth his love for her. Karlach returned to Avernus to do battle in the hells. Gale works night and day to try to find a cure for her heart. He hath not found it yet, but he hath not lost his hope. Gale stayed with Karlach to the very end. His love for her never wavered, even as she passed. Gale's ambitions are far more modest now. He returned home to Waterdeep. The only thing he doth hunger to consume is an excellent book. And he is not alone. 2 armchairs hath his library now, one for him, one for his darling husband. And he is not alone. 2 armchairs hath his library now, one for him, one for his loving spouse. His partner travelled with him, and delighted to see his home, though, being a more adventurous sort, it is yet to be determined how long books will satisfy their appetite. Gale's ambitions are far more modest now, but he did not return to Waterdeep. He chose to continue adventuring, away from the confines of his tower. And he does so with his husband at his side. The only argument between them is insistence on bringing his books. And he does so with his wife at his side. The only argument between them is insistence on bringing his books. And he does so with his spouse at his side. The only argument between them, his insistence on bringing his books. And he does so with his lover at his side. Their union grows ever stronger. The only argument between them, his insistence on bringing his books. Gale eventually returned to Waterdeep. His life now not so different from what it was. Only now he is content. He never did salvage the crown of Karsus. The crown doth rest at the bottom of the Chio'Thar to this day, drained of all its power, It is a mere trinket now. He abandoned all thoughts of pursuing Karsus' example. Mystra was glad to see Gale relinquish the crown, and saw fit to grant him a second chance. Though she did not rid him of the orb, it lieth dormant at last. Lae'zel. She defied her paranoid queen, freed her people's rebel prince, and found an ally along the way. She fulfilled her destiny, and she was not alone. She achieved her lifelong desire, ascension, with her partner by her side. Together, she and Karlach raised the hells and made Zariel tremble with their might. She fulfilled her destiny, returned to the stars. She achieved her lifelong desire, ascension. She fulfilled her destiny, returned to the stars, and she did not do it alone. She achieved her lifelong desire, ascension, with her partner by her side. Defied paranoid Vlaakith and freed her people's rebel prince. Now she rideth the stars with him. Defied her paranoid queen, freed her people's rebel prince, and found an ally along the way. A warrior to the heart, she fought for love, renounced her people and her plane to stay for one who mattered more to her than astral wars. She thinketh of Karlach still, whose aching breaths she held close to her own as the tiefling's heart expired. Source of my bruises, she once called her, and privately, source of her love. No more at peace than she would have been fighting among the stars, for such is love. But her cup is full, and her weapons shine still. A warrior to the core. She fought for a homeland that was not her own, and in doing so, met someone she might share her life with. A warrior to the core, she fought for a homeland that was not her own, and in so doing, made a home in it. Shadowheart. Lady Shah's right hand. She travelled for a while with her Illithid love before returning to the cloister. There, she devoted herself once more to the cleansing of the ranks. Rumours abound among the flock of what their mistress does when she slinks away in the dead of night, and with whom she meets. Yet none dare pry. Perverse Shah's right hand. She hath cleansed the ranks, leaving only the most faithful. The work is never done, and she relisheth it. But by the night orchid's bloom, her mind doth wander to old friends, and an old flame, the one light she is never sad to see, when it doth cast itself upon the steps of the house of grief. But by the night orchid's bloom, her mind doth wander to old friends and old loves. Karlach. She stayed with her, as she promised, to the very end, till all light was gone. She saved her parents from the perverse Shah's torture, that they may begin a new life. Some wounds are slow to heal, and some never will. But in their salvation, she hath found her light. She prepareth to venture to the hells, where she will stand against the hordes of Zariel, alongside her life's great love. Now she ventureth to the hells, where she standeth against the hordes of Zariel, alongside her life's great love. For all her strength, she was not quick to explain the nature of her relationship with her Illithid love to them. They embraced it quite readily. They had seen much worse. Her partner came to visit them in time. Shadowheart was nervous to introduce a stranger to their newly reclaimed lives, but their joy was only elevated by her own. She saved her parents from Shah's torture and secured them a home of their own. Some wounds are slow to heal, and some never will. But their wounds are not for Shadowheart to tend. As for now, she fighteth in the hells for Karlach, for a cure. In time, a happy reunion may beckon. Karlach's heart burned out, but Shadowheart stayed with her till the end. She made the awful choice, and liberated her parents from their pain, and in so doing cured her own. She longeth for them still, but liveth at peace, knowing they found theirs. And she is not alone. Karlach is right beside her, as they battle through the hells. From their ashes bright flowers bloom, and from Karlach's too. For Shadowheart raised a garden to her loves, and doth tend it to this day. It doth not erase her pain, but doth hold her mind within its own expansive intellect, and dull the grief enough that she may feel it and be healed. And she is not alone. Her partner is still by her side, and doth soothe her with their company. And she is not alone. Her partner is still by her side, and doth soothe her with his company. And she is not alone. Her partner is still by her side, and doth soothe her with her company. Her story is yet to close. She liveth her life as ever she did, but misseth something in her soul. Zariel's forces prove an excellent distraction. As she and Karlach seek a cure for her heart, they are yet to find one, but what they find in one another is more than enough. Her great love, Karlach, from whose ashes now the flowers bloom. She seeketh to rectify that now the only way she can. Alone. Wyll. Wyll hath ventured to Avernus with his love, and hath left his father ruling in his place until his return. He hath ventured to Avernus with his love. In his absence, the Council of Four ruleth in his stead. His devilish form hath become a boon in the hells. The blade striketh fear into devils and demons alike. Baldur's Gate hath never known a steadier pair of hands. Grand Dukes Wyll and older Ravengard, their differences cast aside, are bonded closer than ever. Though he beareth the visage of a devil, he commandeth the respect of patriarch and pauper alike. The city needeth him for a while longer yet, but he hath not forgotten his pledge to Karlach. He will join her in Avernus as soon as he can, and trusts that she will hold Zariel's forces until then. Karlach's unfortunate fate, however, lingereth never far from Wyll's mind. A hidden cottage he built for his old love in the Undercity, and visiteth just as he promised, with sweetbreads, brains, and tales of mirth. He longs for the day he may sway the city's opinion and raise statues in its name. The Illithid who saved Baldur's Gate and captivated his heart. Meanwhile, Wyll hath taken a husband. A prettier pair hath Baldur's Gate ne'er known, nor more loyal to its people. Meanwhile, Wyll hath taken a spouse. A prettier pair hath Baldur's Gate ne'er known, nor more loyal to its people. Meanwhile, Wyll hath taken a wife. A prettier pair hath Baldur's Gate ne'er known, nor more loyal to its people. Wyll hath other business to attend to now. A father he's become. A little Ravengard he raiseth with his love. A courageous child, an adventurous one, his newest shining star. Grand Duke though he may now be, every high son will still maketh time to tend to more humble roots. For there are few things in this realm that can parallel the joy of hunting monsters with his shining star, his love. Grand Duke he may now be, but Wyll's heart doth remain unchanged. To this day he continueth to be champion to the lost and the downtrodden, and bringeth to them fresh hope. And by his side throughout it all, his shining star, his love. Baldur's Gate hath never known a steadier pair of hands. The Council of Four is re-established, and Grand Duke Wyll Ravengard guideth the city with benevolence and grace. No less noble in his new role, the blade of Avernus hath set his sights on the hells, preying on the devils and demons who threaten the Sword Coast. His devilish visage is a boon to him in this, for they do not see him coming, till he striketh, and he striketh fast and true. His love is right beside him, in body, mind, and blade. He maketh good progress alone, but he doth miss the companionship of his champion, his one-time love, and doth hope some day to see them still. Noble in spirit, if not in name, the Blade of Frontiers doth still fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. He is free from Mizora's leash, if not from the mental scars she inflicted. Wyll hath pledged to hunt down the devil and slay her. And he is not alone. Karlach is right beside him in body, mind, and blade. His only regret that Karlach doth not fight beside him. And he is not alone. His shining star is right beside him, in body, mind, and blade. He maketh good progress alone, but he doth miss the companionship of his champion, his one-time love. When Mizora is slain, he doth hope to see them still. The blade still doth devote himself to the protection of the weak, though now he doeth so from the fires of Avernus alongside Karlach. The blade still doth devote himself to the protection of the Sword Coast. And he does not do it alone. His partner fighteth beside him still. Two champions as one. But he longeth to be free of her burden, for he longs for his shining star still, his once partner, his love, the champion of his soul. But Karlach is long gone now, and Wyll fighteth in her name. Karlach. She overcame her fears to return from whence she came, and live, perhaps not the life she wanted, but the life she chose. She gave herself as she knew it, so her friends could keep their souls. And she gained a new life in the bargain. Hers was a tragic death, indeed, though she died exactly as she lived, herself, free. Jaheira. Retirement finally found her. The battle over, her swords now rest upon her mantle, a decorative tribute to a life hard fought and well won. No rest for she who would keep the world from chaos. Just the lull between battles, never long, but sometimes enough. His brush with villainy did not shake his iron sense of justice. Evil is still evil, but sometimes, just sometimes, it can be beaten into a more virtuous shape. But it is the hamster Boo who truly doth confound me. From whence did he originate, and what purpose doth he serve? Such questions demand a lifetime of scholarship, though I fear even an immortal life will not be long enough. Idle lives do not make for happy heroes, nor doth time change them. Minsc doth reject the tedium of sedentary life, and adventureth yet in search of souls to save. Minthara. An exile she was, and an exile she remains. With neither home nor God, she is matriarch of none. But she is not alone. With Karlach she descended unto Avernus, and found a veritable feast of bloodshed, intrigue, and conquest to be had. But she is not alone. A rare find indeed, that partner who stands beside her now. Though the rest of the world may think it a monster, she sees its true worth. A feast of conquests opens up before them now. And what more beautiful terror can there be than that wrought by Minthara and her love? And what more beautiful terror can there be than that wrought by Minthara and the mind flayer by her side? What path doth await them is yet untold. The world entire is theirs to venture into, and perhaps theirs to claim. But she's not alone. A rare find indeed, that partner who stands beside her now. Few have the fortitude for such a role, and no one else her love. But she still hath her freedom, and with that she can do much. For the rest, she hath her resolve. What path doth await her now is yet untold. The world entire is hers to venture into, and perhaps hers to claim. Halsin. In Nathaniel's realm, under nature's watch, Halsin found his purpose. The lost and wandering flock to him, and in him find their home. He doth not turn away a single soul, Not even the mind flayer he once called his own. Not all who see it in the fold are welcoming of it, but thanks to Halsin's efforts, their minds are turning. Nature strives for balance through him, and harmony is close. The lost and wandering flock to him, and in him find their home. Nature and community alike thrive in their hands, and Halsin doth smile to see it all. The Emperor. It hath been busy, it seems, and it doth not act alone. The patriarchs regroup. The Knights of the Shield grow strong again, as strong as they ever were, under the familiar mind that did guide them. Nay, stronger, for the Emperor hath an Illithid ally now, whose mind, it is said, outstrips even its own. Though one is left to wonder who its new face will be, now that Duke Stelmane is gone. An Illithid can only operate in the shadows for so long before it needeth a puppet. Thus concludes the ledger. My debts are paid, but for one. Thee. Didst think I had forgotten thee? Thou art gone in body, yet something of thy spirit doth remain, thy soul, that indivisible part of thee. Thou saved the world, Gale. Thou art a true hero, and Mystra knows it. With thy sacrifice, she hath welcomed thee into Elysium. But thy allies, who thou sacrificed alongside thyself, are heroes just as much as thee. Thou hast no more need of me, for thou art, at long last, home. Thy wizard sacrificed thee to save the world. Thy part in this hath rendered divine consequence. For with his death did he finally earn fair Mystra's grace. Thou hast restored a wizard to his god. Thy wizard sacrificed himself to save the world. And with his sacrifice did he finally earn fair Mystra's grace. But thou art as much a hero in this tale as he. Thou played thy part in weaving the fabric of fate itself, but for every thread thou sewed, so did the gods unravel another. Thou didst claim a place in the pantheon, thy divinity unassailable, the Karsite weave obeying thy every command. But thou wert not the only one to pursue a greater destiny. Thou mayest yet prove a most interesting counterpart to thy divine associates. The Pantheon welcomes thee. Thou didst dare to challenge Mystra, to claim her domain as thine own. Thou didst restore thyself in the eyes of Mystra, giving unto her the crown that threatened to destroy mortality and magic alike. Thou hast become a greater chosen than ever thou wert before. Thine intelligence and wisdom a beacon for those who would study the weave, and a scourge to those who threaten it. I have heard good words of thee from Mystra. She is proud of thee. Though thou no longer servest as her chosen, thy studies lead thee to ever greater wisdom and understanding. Thou wilt make thy mark on wizardry, Gale, and I shall be there to witness it. Though she did not restore thee as her chosen, she believes in thy potential yet. She cured thee of the orb's affliction, that thou mayst continue thy studies of magic with improved and blessed wisdom. Thy hubris was thy downfall once again. Thou didst reforge the crown without knowing the true nature of its power, or the orb within thy chest. In crowning thyself, thou wrought thine own destruction. The orb at last exploded, and with it took thy life. An attempt to join the Pantheon even briefer than Karsus' own. Though thou didst perish in that moment, thy soul lingers yet. Thou left many threads unstitched, and the gods do long to weave of them a fate. The crown was lost to thee, but thy story was not over. Mystra witnessed thy selflessness in defeating the Netherbrain, and saw fit to reward thee. Though the orb yet burns within thy chest, she didst contain its hunger. Thy life is thine own once more, and thou wert not the only one to be so changed. Karlach, thy spirit singeth, even in thy form so changed. Thy infernal engine is sated, stilled by the illithid form that thou now callest thine own, yet its power burns within thee still. The limits of thy power have not yet been reached, but to unlock thy whole potential requires time, forbearance. Thou never wast one for patience, and a little more is needed yet. But rest assured, thine allies have not seen the last of thee, until we next meet. And thee, I can think of vanishingly few who would make a monster of themselves to save the world. I once asked of thee, do Illithids possess souls? Thou declared them soulless. Thou wast doubtful, but supposed that they must follow the natural order of all living things. Thou confessed thou had not thought upon't. Now thou art illithid, thou must know the truth. Hence thy self-imprisonment to protect the lives of others, but while thy body is imprisoned, thy mind wanders yet. Thou art illithid after all. What bars can hold such an intellect as thine? In many ways, thou art now freer than thou ever wast. Hence thy caution when it came to the continuation of thine own life. And yet thou liveth, even as a stranger unto thyself. Hence thy revelry in thy new form. Thou hast found value in thy mortal life that even gods may envy. Thy divinity cannot alter thy illithid nature. Thou art a god without a soul, the purest embodiment of ambition. As thine ambitions increase, so too do thy followers. Each new dawn sees their number grow, along with thy renown. The challenge thou posed to Mystra did not spare thee from thy fate. A soulless aspirant to the Pantheon, The god of magic will not surrender her divinity lightly, and war ever rages twixt thee both. Still, thou provest willing to attempt the impossible. In refusing Mystra's offer of Elysium, thou didst embrace a new form of immortality. Thy soul is forfeit, but thy curiosity is not. Thou hast still much to discover, and if I know thee, thou wilt find thy rewards. Though Mystra deigned to cure thee of the orb, she did not restore to thee thy mortal form. And yet, thou hast found value in thy mortal life that even gods may envy. Now that thou art Illithid, thy soul is forfeit, for Illithids have them not. Thou must have been aware of this when thou chose thy fate. Hence thy will to sacrifice thyself a second time, yet here thou art speaking with me. How can it be? I ask of thee, what is't that doth outlive a mortal life but a soul? And yet thou art Illithid. Thou hast impressed me in more ways than one. To defy the divine desires of thy father took no small strength of will. Thine independent heart prevailed, challenger of gods. Thy heroism a testament to thee. To defy both Illithid infection and divine desires took no small strength of will. Thou wast thy father's favoured, yet thou cast favour aside. Thine courage was rewarded with lunacy, for father's disappointment in thee hath no bounds. Thou were wise to seek refuge from the quickening madness with thy death. Thou wast not meant for such a noble fate. Thy dark desires prevailed. No metal bars could bind them. Thy father hath quite the imagination for punishment. To date, 1,259 foul beasts bear his spawn through thee. And he is not done. The next horde paw already at thy door. No bolts can keep their hungry musk from thee. And thou art no more fortunate than thy Balian ally. Thou hast saved the world, but thou didst make one mistake. Fortunately for thee, thy divine friend Gale was there to protect thee. When Raphael came knocking, he cast him straight back to the hells. Thus is thy story concluded. For now. Thou signed a contract with the devil himself, and did not honor it. Fortunately for thee, Mystra was there to protect thee. When Raphael came knocking, she cast him straight back to the hells. Thou signed a contract with the devil, and thou art yet to honor it. Fortunately, thy friends fare better than thee. Thou played thy part in weaving the fabric of fate itself. Thou art a true hero. But for every thread thou sewed, so did the gods unravel another. Sleep, rest, revel, but be ready, for thou mayst yet be needed. Sleep, if thou canst, and if not, all the better. Thou must be ready. I may have need of thee.